is Arsenette from Rambling Regan, and we're back again. This time after what? Almost 3 months? I don't even know. Welcome to Videogame Hangout, where this is Arsenette, and with my husband Don and my friend William, we talk about everything video game that we've been messing with in the last... It should be the last month, but isn't. But yeah. Either way, we'll start off. William, how have you been? It's been a while.
The last time we recorded a podcast together, I was still 28.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday.
And since then, I have been to 2 musicals and watched 2 separate Ninja Warrior competitions live.
Nice.
It's been a while.
And Don, now that you're exiled to another room, how does it feel?
Kind of like it did before, just less of you in here with me.
Oh boy. Either way, if you haven't noticed, Don and I are married. We have moved to our first home after 21 years of marriage. Yay! So, our anniversary was literally last week. So... Oh, God. So we haven't recorded since before your birthday, so that was February 22nd.
My birthday's February 22nd. We recorded the Monday before that.
Wow. Yeah, and we're now June 4th. What? That's a record.
Well, I mean, you guys bought and sold a house and then moved and then had technical issues and other stuff. This is what happens when I get really excited on getting a brand new microphone, because we're now in separate offices, so we can have isolated sound, which is great. And then I got the wrong connection, and I couldn't get the connection right, and I kept going back and forth with Amazon. And then I finally got what I should have gotten, which is a microphone that is directly to USB, as opposed to trying to make an XLR work, and it didn't, for something was not working, so yeah. The other one just plugged in just perfectly fine, so I'm now using a Yeti on mine. So yay. It's been interesting. In the interim, I have been doing a lot of video gaming, some online and some not. I've tried working on Twitch to I guess get that started, and then I was going to be moving stuff of those videos over to YouTube, and then that didn't happen because we had a bunch of work here at the house, and you can't do that when half the electricity's off, and carpets are being put in and furniture being removed, and
when
so either way,
we moved in, a lot of things needed to be updated, but there were some critical things that had to get done, and we've just been knocking it out one after another, and that's one of the reasons that this has been so delayed.
Yeah, and then part of my room, in fact, it's only half full of boxes. We're slowly but surely getting rid of all of them. So, but mine has been like the repository of stuff, and then of course I can't put half my library together because I'm missing some of the hardware.
Well,
so there's
not to
boxes
mention,
to go with, and
we can't put any of the books up until the electrical work is done, because if he needs to open a wall up, I'm not moving the library 5 times until it's done.
And then so that's on Wednesday. Yay! And that should be the end of what I call phase 1 of like the initial...
Well, it's the end of the money, so it's the end of phase 1.
That's what happens when you buy a fixer-upper. Woohoo! I'm very happy with my fixer-upper, so yay.
Hey, we were very blessed in that the house is structurally sound. It just needed...
It's very 1970s.
Yeah, the house was built in 71. It's a ranch. It's a nice home. It was well maintained, but the couple that lived here previous to us, I think, lived here just about since the house was built.
It was.
And although they took care of it, they really didn't update anything, so the electrical service was 100 amp and had water running into the breaker box, which is a no-no. Yeah. So that had to get done, plus upgraded to 200 amp because we draw a little more power than the average family. And just stuff like, 20-year-old carpeting, kitchen flooring that was just shot. I mean, we're not talking about, I don't like it. No, it's dead. It's falling apart. It needs to get replaced.
It's literally being pulled off the walls because it's shrinking.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, thank God we were able to get all the critical things done in one shot. Had to replace 2/3 of the appliances because they were dead or on their way out. But we knew that moving in, but that takes time. So there's the delay.
So either way, I've been doing some gaming, some during the day when I could, and then some other ones at night when I didn't record any of those. But for the most part, I've been living off of Monster Hunter World, like major, like hardcore.
It's a really good game.
Yeah. So that's on the PS4. And William, what have you been messing with in the last almost 3 months?
Well, I've been messing with quite a few things, but one thing that I want to highlight is that I've been playing on my Nintendo Switch a game called Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle.
Ooh.
Yes. So this is, for those of you who don't know, this is an Ubisoft game developed by them that combines the world of Super Mario Brothers with the Raving Rabbids. And
I loved.
which it's very interesting in that, like, I think this game, at least initially, was hurt by the leaks because, like, you know, you kind of hear, oh, they're crossing over, that's kind of weird. But then, like, they had their E3 presentation and they really revealed a lot. Like, this game's been in the work for 3 years, and, like, when Ubisoft got the license from Nintendo to make the game, they were told, hey, don't make, like, an average run-of-the-mill Mario game, make something unique. So they did. And it also helps that the director is apparently, like, this big fan of Miyamoto who considers him his, like, idol. Like, you know, so... so...
I still remember the meme of, well... It wasn't a meme.
Yeah. Don't cry, director, man, or something like that.
That was so cute!
Oh, you can tell it meant a lot to him.
Yeah.
So Mario plus Rabbids is a turn-based strategy RPG. Similar to XCOM, that combines the worlds of Mario and the Raving Rabbids. The plot is very interesting in that it starts in a teenage girl's house on planet Earth who is this genius, and she had created this visor that lets you combine things molecularly. It's very, very science fiction-y. And basically, she's also this huge Nintendo fan. She goes to the bathroom, and that's when the Rabbids show up in their washing machine spaceship.
In the bathroom?
Well, no, she's in the bathroom. They show up in her bedroom.
Oh, I thought they showed up in her bedroom.
No. This all happens when she's not looking. Basically...
This is a Nintendo game, not an EA game.
I would actually... it's weird. I would say this... I think one thing important to stress out, this is an Ubisoft game that they licensed Mario for because, like, they say hell many times in this game, which is very surprising. But, like, basically they get a hold of the visor, and then when things start going wrong and they end up warping into Mario's world, I assume through a game console. A bit weird. And basically, the one who grabbed the visor overheats. He starts going crazy. He starts fusing everything. Most of the Rabbids go bad. A few of them are good. It causes chaos in the Mushroom Kingdom. Mario, everyone gets split up, and Mario joins up with Rabbid Peach and Rabbid Luigi, and you start this turn-based strategy game. You can unlock. I know they already announced it's Rabbid Peach, Rabbid Luigi, Rabbid Mario, Rabbid Yoshi, and then Mario, Peach, Luigi, and Yoshi. By the time you're done, those are the 8 characters that you can unlock. Combat is, I wouldn't say it's simple, but it's uncomplicated. It's there's 2 types of cover. It's full cover, half cover. It basically determines the percentage of how likely you are to get shot, because everyone's got guns in this game. That's the important thing to mention.
Yeah. I remember that conversation.
And it's kind of funny because, like, even like in the beginning of the game, Mario's kind of like slightly hesitant to grab a gun, but he goes for it. And the actual gameplay itself is a lot of fun. It's tougher than it looks. There's quite a few times where, like, the enemies gave me like a run for money because, like, a lot of them got these rules and stuff. Like, there's this one in level 1. There's I guess 8 stages, and there's one mini boss that you face in stage 4. He has this ability he shoots fireballs at you, But when you get hit with fire, your character starts running, which means they're going to leave cover, which leaves you wide open for the other enemies to shoot you. So you need it's a game that can really punish you if you're not careful with your movements ahead of time.
Right.
And as you go through the game, you have the ability to unlock new weapons and new abilities and new sub-weapons for your characters. So there's a lot of options, and there's a lot of cool movement options, too, because characters, basically, if you move one of your characters into another character, they can then launch them into another direction or onto another level of the playing field. You got these options. One thing that you should definitely try to do when you're playing the game is you want to try to like dash into them first, into an enemy, because that'll do you do melee damage. Then you can move to cover, shoot them for even more damage, and then maybe use a special ability for like extra defense depending on the character. But all like the special abilities, obviously they have cooldowns and stuff. It's very well done so far from what I've seen, and I like it. The story is funny. There's some neat goofiness to it. Luigi, one of the things they did with Luigi early on, I think was very funny and very appropriate for the character because Nintendo does tend to make Mario a little goofy. One of the other things that like really has struck with me so far with this game is the music. The music is done by Grant Kirbyfor, who has done a bunch of games, but the one I really want to highlight is that he did the music for Banjo-Kazooie, which is a game that I love, and the music is one of the reasons. And this soundtrack has a very Banjo-Kazooie feel to it, which is this is a really well-made game. And I know we've criticized Ubisoft in the past, and rightfully so,
for all the buggy stuff,
for between bugs and bad business strategies, but like this has none of that. From my experience, there hasn't been any bugs. There's no like gross monetization plan. There's like an expansion that just came out recently, but like other than that, there's no other way to spend money. And
that's good.
Yeah,
what an amazing concept.
I know.
You actually buy a game, not the shell of a game.
Yeah, it's really cool.
A service.
Yeah, the first major.
Sorry, I just triggered Don.
I just realized what you said. Yeah, the first major boss is a Rabbid version of Donkey Kong, and it's really cool. If you've seen the E3 trailer, you know what he looks like. That was a really cool fight. It took a minute to figure out exactly what I was supposed to do, but like once you figure it out, it's like, oh yeah, okay. So yeah, from what I played so far, really like it. There's a lot of cool tech, a lot of cool stuff you can do, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. Yeah, so that's kind of like that's one of the games that I've been playing. But yeah.
Yeah, that one looked like a lot of fun. I enjoyed XCOM. I never did finish it because other things came out, which is the story of my gaming career. But I love those strategy games where you get to sit down and think about what you're doing, and it's not just Twitch gaming.
In fact, tomorrow I think we're supposed to be getting that for PS Plus.
Nice. What a shame.
XCOM 2. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be horribly, horribly upset while downloading it.
I think. Let's see. We'll find out. I guess I'm not sure if it's just UK or the US. We'll find out. So, Don, you've been, outside of Monster Hunter, you've been playing something that I've been watching because it's a little too violent for me, but I love seeing the story,
yes.
And I didn't think that I would actually be wanting to see the story of a particular game.
Yeah, that would be the new God of War, which I have played the others. I've never owned them.
Never liked the others.
Yeah, they never really did much for me.
Boy.
So in watching... I mean, I know the story. I just didn't care for the gameplay so much. But watching the coverage of this, it really interested me. Mm-hmm. Not that fights don't get hectic because, they get all kinds of hairy.
Yeah.
But the combat is a lot more deliberate, and you have to think about what you're doing. In a lot of ways, it reminds me of raiding in an MMO. In that you've got target priority. You know, there are things that you need to take down, and it may not be what you think it is at first glance. Mm-hmm. Tangling with a troll and you have trolls in this game are of the Norse variety, because the entire milieu of the game is set in Nordic mythology. And trolls in this are 12, 15 feet tall slabs of meat that carry around huge stone totems and use them to try to smash you into a small pinkish paste. So they're bad news, but they don't move very quickly for the most part. So you would think, okay, that's my biggest problem. Ignore the Draugr, which are Draugr or there's another type of enemy whose name escapes me at the moment. But Draugr are the, for those that played Skyrim, it's a zombie, essentially, undead in Norse mythology. But some of them have projectile attacks, and believe it or not, they're the ones you need to knock down first.
Yep,
because you can dodge the troll relatively easily. These things will give you a death of 1,000 cuts with their projectiles. Yeah. So they'll wear you down to the point where a hit from the troll can take you out. Yep. So if you're just a little slow to dodge, you're dead. But the game is very, very well designed. Enemy AI is good. They don't do stupid things. I mean, it's not like playing against a human being, because human beings do odd things at times. It's clearly an AI.
I love the way it's presented. It looks like a movie.
Yeah, they just did an amazing job.
There are no loading screens, nothing. Literally, you're just going through, and it goes straight into a cutscene, and it's I hate using the word because it sounds so frou-frou, but it's organic.
Well, the entire game is in-engine. It doesn't cut to pre-rendered scenes. I mean, obviously the actions are pre-rendered, but it's not like the old days where you came out of game graphics and into an FMV. This is just directly into a cutscene. But
it's just beautiful to watch, and that's just on a regular PS4 because we did not have a Pro.
Right. It was just done very, very well.
I have
the story is... Sure, go ahead.
Have you gotten the second weapon?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Which I don't want to spoil.
Yeah, no, that's why I didn't say...
We haven't gotten that as too far past that because we've been distracted with a bunch of stuff in the house. But yes, that was the first question that Don actually had, which was sort of spoiled when he went to watch...
Yeah, I watched a video and I'm like, oh, well, that's a spoiler.
Yeah, because he had the second weapon, and he's like, because that was the first question that he had, like, how are they going to incorporate this because he's Greek? And how does that work?
Well,
and is any of the previous history at all relevant? And the answer is yes. Yes, it is.
Actually, everything is relevant.
Everything is relevant.
This game is not a reimagining of the storyline.
Nope.
Everything that happened previously happened.
Yeah. We haven't gotten to the end.
That was weird. Because, like, the advertising... really made it felt like, and just the fact that it's just called God of War really made it feel like this was a remake, or reboot, not a sequel.
In some ways, yes. They are, in a sense, rebooting the franchise. For those that have followed the God of War storyline, there are no Greek gods left to kill. Kratos took care of them all.
Well, I meant a reboot in a sense that, like, the first 3 games didn't happen, basically.
No, that is all referenced.
Yeah.
What I find interesting, I've never played any of the games. I had just, I guess the phrase is a cursory knowledge of the storyline. I had to literally go, okay, fine. Let me go to a YouTube video and get a synopsis of the first three, because I was that interested in the story. So from the way I see it is technically a reboot in the sense that somebody that is brand new to the series can literally pick up and not need it. If anything, we're in the position of the son, because the son knows nothing of his past history. Okay. So if anything, we're seeing the game through his eyes rather than the veterans are seeing it through Kratos' eyes.
For a second, I thought you were talking about our son, which is like... What?
No. So they've definitely rebooted the series. There is also some conjecture that the timeline there's a gap. So it could be a couple of 100 years to a couple of 1,000 years. That hasn't been confirmed or denied, but some time has definitely passed since
we haven't finished the game.
Since the last events of the last since the events of the last mainline game of God of War to this one. They just don't know how long the gap is, but the voice has changed. It is now Chris Judge. For those who enjoyed Stargate SG-1 will remember Teal'c. He does a great job.
I love his voice.
If you can find it on the internet, there are some outtakes of Chris Judge doing dad jokes as Kratos.
Yeah, I think it was IGN that did it.
Excellent. Yeah. Just very, very funny.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Have you played around with the photo mode?
Not yet.
You should play around with the photo mode if you want some good laughs.
I've seen memes of Kratos' smile.
You've got options with the face stuff. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, that's literally the only way that you can make him smile. I've seen. See, the problem is once you start, and this is of course all social media, you go down one rabbit hole, all of a sudden you get like I only do Twitter and Instagram, so all of a sudden you'll start seeing in your timeline extra stuff based on what you've been searching or looking at, and yeah, some of the stuff that I've seen, half the time I look, and Reddit too, and so Reddit every once in a while I just look over and just, oh, look at this. So I've seen a lot of them.
The favorite thing I've seen so far was looked like a medical chart to describe types of headaches, and it would show it by highlighting the area the headache occurred in red. Like a tension headache would be from the back of the neck up through the back of the head, sinus headache. So it named about 5 or 6 different headaches, and then at the bottom it has a picture of Kratos' tattoo, and it just says boy.
Yeah.
He calls his son boy throughout the game. It very rarely uses his name.
Yeah, his son's name is Atreus. In fact, if you hear Kratos saying Atreus, it's usually either he's upset or concerned. Because most of the time it's like, boy.
Or it's hit the fan.
Boy.
Yeah, boy.
Boy, get over here and read this.
Yeah, basically,
yes, exactly. Yes. So you've seen some gameplay? Because I know you don't have a PS4.
I've been watching a Let's Play, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, they did a great job. It's very enjoyable. It's very easy to get invested in the characters.
And it's hard!
And Mimir is just awesome.
Yeah.
Quiet head.
Yeah, it's difficult because for someone that's never played the game, I guess it's been long enough that we haven't finished the game, like, at all. Like, in terms of storyline, like, if you're following a Let's Play, he just got the weapons and he started to do some side story stuff.
Oh, okay, okay.
So he hasn't gotten that far.
But I had a lot of experience banked, so I was able to upgrade the weapons very quickly.
Yeah. So I like how it's not just a story thing where they are distinct weapon styles.
Right. Yeah.
And so, but I'm curious to go back to it. But at one point I could tell that Don hit a wall because everything spiked in difficulty.
Well,
and this isn't normal.
Part of the problem with it is I started going after the travelers for armor pieces to finish making the set. So I was fighting a lot of purple difficulty travelers and managed to beat all but one so far. And I think the one that I'm currently fighting, I just need to get some more skills unlocked and get leveled up a bit further.
Yeah, because at one point he's doing fine, going through story, and I'm like passing popcorn, just watching. And of course, the problem that I have with playing the game is that I don't do well with like extreme violence.
Oh, so some of those finishing moves you must really be a fan of.
Yeah, so finishing moves, as soon as he starts it, I just literally, I look down. Like, I'm playing 90% of the time when he's either level grinding or that sort of thing, I am playing Animal Crossing. That's its own thing, and I'll talk about that shortly.
How about that with a finishing move on those wolves?
Yep. That's one of those where you go, oh.
Every once in a while, I look
right.
over, like, because the way I'm positioned, the TV is on, like, my front left, and then Don is sitting on my right, and it's just how we have our sofa set up. And so, as soon as that starts, I look at him, and then you see, like, the pain on his face, like, ooh, that's gonna hurt.
That's gonna leave a mark.
But I'm like, I don't need that. I'll have nightmares. So that's why I can't play this game. So I'm really curious if story mode is exactly that, or if I still have to do a lot more gaming. Like, for example, I think in Nier Automata, there was basically almost like an auto aim for the people that just wanted the story. So
no, you're going to have to fight in this game.
Oh, dang it! It's hard.
I mean, sure, you may not go for the achievements of the.
Yeah, I'm not interested. I'm not going to be doing the platinum. It's just not going to happen.
I got one more question.
Sure.
How familiar are you with Norse mythology?
Moderately familiar.
Okay. He is a lot more than I am.
Okay, so I'm just wondering if you've figured out some things that might be happening in the story plot.
Yeah, I got a pretty good grasp of what's going on, I think.
Yeah.
It's just, okay, so where are they going to go with it is the question.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I think I know where they're going with it, but I'm not entirely sure.
I think I know.
Yeah.
I
do. One thing that I thought was interesting in terms of that storyline is listening to the reactions of people that do not have the background in what I call straight up Norse mythology, and only have the MCU.
They got
Thor and Odin.
They got a hell of a surprise.
This is not the same one.
Okay, so the running commentary here is basically the gods are generally douchebags, and if you haven't figured that out, go read some mythology. Real stuff, not the MCU.
Right.
Thor's a tool.
Yeah.
He's just a drunken idiot most of the time. Yeah. The problem is he's ridiculously powerful, so it tends to get him out of most things. If you to really get a grasp, and I think this is where in the narrative they did an amazing thing, you have to listen to the comments that Mimir makes as you're traveling, because he'll expound a lot of the mythology. I
love the brothers, the dwarf brothers.
Yeah, they're great. But you have to. They will expound the story, especially when you're walking or on a boat in the lake is a big one. And the little things that matter. So Mimir will be in the middle of telling a story. You pull into a dock, and he says, "All right, well, we'll continue that another time." I mean, those little touches instead of him just stopping. Then you get back in the boat and
get back on the boat. I want to hear the rest of the story.
So then you get back in the boat and it picks it right back up where you left off. But it does it smoothly in that Atreus will say, "Mimir, you were talking about blah, blah, blah." And he says, "Oh, yes." And he goes back into it. It's very natural. Which, again,
I yell at him all the time.
The little touches that really put the polish on the game.
And the dry humor. It just I guess I grew up with a lot of British comedy, and it is just extremely dry, very matter of fact. Irony is just but it only works when you have that kind of experience. So you would have to know half that stuff in order to get the joke. You know what I mean?
So, as a good example, and this is a minor spoiler for anyone that does not want to be spoiled at all, just turn it off now, jump to the next time mark, whatever you want to do.
Yep.
But during part of the quest to get to Jotunheim, you have to go get the gate stones. So you have to go into this one room to get this small little side cutscene. But at one point they're going through a treasure hoard, and Atreus looks down, and for those of you that actually speak Scotch Gaelic, forgive me, he finds a shinduv, which is the dagger that a Scotsman would have usually in the sock if you're in kilt and full regalia. And Mimir is Scottish in the story. He says, "Oh, there's a dagger from my homeland. Take it with you, lad. It'll be, good help for you." And Kratos, out of nowhere, just says, "Oh, yes, indeed. Take it with you, Atreus. We may need to butter some bread on our journey." It was just, he makes no jokes, but all of a sudden he just cracks out this bone-dry joke.
I do love that set. Yeah, there's no way we can do. I don't know. Maybe we could do a spoiler cast later. I just thought it was just really well done.
I don't want to do that until I finish the game, and I'm
avoiding
all of the Let's Plays so I don't get spoiled.
Yeah, especially, and it was it was interesting because it wasn't even like as if you were trying to do that. It's just he was finishing up one game and then went into the other, and it's like, oh, that's what he has. Oh, all right.
Yeah, I just saw a scene and went, well, I'm not that surprised.
And you were not that far from it either, so...
No, and it's kind of like... Although one neat thing I will say about the two weapons, when you get the second weapon, it does not...
You don't automatically switch to it.
Yeah. No. It does not negate the first.
Yes, that's what I meant.
The second set of weapons are going to be useless in Muspelheim.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the first weapon is useless in Helheim.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the different elements of ice and fire. So everything has its place, everything has its use, and you may need to switch between them in combat depending on what you're fighting at the time. So
I like how that works out.
Learning the movesets and how to maximize them is critical, especially if you're going to play on the higher difficulties.
Yeah, I like how William was talking about with the Raving Rabbids game. The mechanics that were used is actually nice how they did it, where it's integral to not just how to play, but the storyline as well. It just keeps with it. I just thought it was interesting. My thing to finish off with what we've been playing, Monster Hunter, and I'll do the quick Animal Crossing, and they it's the same argument for both. Animal Crossing has added basically a lot of microtransaction, more so than they already have. They instituted things that's called memories. And memories are just these little... everything in the game is all collecting stuff. So you get an item, and all of a sudden it triggers like this little cutscene, and then you get the little... I'm trying to remember how to... think in English, I'm thinking in Spanish! So... the little memories, there's I think about 10 or 15 of them at this point, and it's just a collection of all these different cutscenes with animals that you won't get otherwise, but they're triggered by having this specific type of item in it's a furniture piece or a microphone or whatever, but it's a piece that you have to get. You can only get them by paying real life money for it. You may occasionally get them and whatever, but basically they added a gacha machine. If you know what a gacha machine is in Japan, it's basically where you put the little quarter, or at that point over there, I think it's like $3 or $4 to get one random item from a machine. And the whole point is that you keep doing that over and over until you get the full set that you want. But in the process, you get multiples. So people have been spending money to figure out what the algorithm is for this, and it's just like any other, it's gambling. It's pretty bad. So of course now, completionists like me are sitting there going, we have to make a decision on whether or not we're going to be plunking extra money for this, or just basically write it off as just, you had something nice, and people were willing to support your game monetarily for the minor stuff. And now it's such a blatant cash grab that it's really destroying any reason why you would continue playing the game. Then you have the complete opposite going on in Monster Hunter World, where all of these updates are free. Heck, No Man's Sky is doing the same thing, where all these updates are free. And it's just whether or not you want to support them by getting all the other little tchotchkes that you can get, but that are not integral to the game. So it's a little frustrating, because now in the day and age with the whole microtransaction yada yada yada, that was, in fact, I think in the 3 months that we've done this, the whole big explosion was at Battlefront Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it was, where this is where EA went a little too far, but they were not the only company to do so. That was just the blatant one. And we've always had the jokes of, why is EA, the worst video game company in North America? It's because Ubisoft is in France. So it's interesting seeing that, William likes a game that was made by Ubisoft that did not have those microtransactions. But Nintendo is willing to do so. with other games, but not this one. It's just interesting that in this day and age, you now have to start looking at how much money they're wanting to pull from you. It's getting a little frustrating. So, in the beginning, William, you also mentioned that you were playing several games and you only got to Raving Rabbids. What was the other one that you wanted to talk about?
Well, I think the one I definitely wanted to mention was that I recently beat Angry Video Game Nerd Adventures.
I don't think I've ever heard of that one.
Are you familiar with the Angry Video Game Nerd?
No.
Oh, okay, well. So, Angry Video Game Nerd is a web series that started before YouTube did, back in 2004. It's the creation of a man named James Rolfe. He started putting YouTube videos on YouTube in 2006 when the website first started, and they picked up, especially, which was surprising to him, especially because he just sort of was just like, here, because he's an amateur filmmaker who's always been making videos his entire life. And this character just sort of picked up. It essentially started what is known as the angry reviewing genre, where yeah,
Angry Joe.
Angry Video Game Nerd is what started it all. Literally, what started it all. Basically, he, as the theme song would say, he's going to take you back to the past to play some games that suck. And
yeah, I can feel that.
He's been going on strong. These days the show doesn't update as much as it does, because he still does. Makes other videos with his Cinemassacre branding. But a few years ago, he got his own video game, which was heavily inspired by the various games that he's reviewed and torn apart over the years, as well as things that have happened in the show itself. The show talking about this game is going to be a little tough without cursing, not because of how I felt or anything, but just because of the nature of what a game is. So you go through. So basically, the story is the angry video game nerd is hanging out with some of his friends when all of a sudden they put in this game, and a hand comes out from the TV, grabs him by the junk, and pulls him into video game land. And as the angry video game nerd, you have your zapper, which is totally not an NES zapper. And you have to fight your way through, I think it was 9 levels, plus a final level afterwards. Fighting all these bosses. You got your health is bottles of beer. You got all these different worlds. You got Spooky Land, and they all got these various names. There's one based on that's inspired by the Atari pornography games that he once reviewed. That was a whole.
So this is an '80s homage.
This is I would say '80s, early '90s, very NES inspired stuff. Yeah. And there's a lot of, like I said, a lot of references to the various games that you played. Like when he reviewed the first Ninja Turtles game, like there was a moment where where in that game you got these closing walls coming in, but there's this health item that is literally behind one of the walls that you can't get. And so that is they recreate that in AVGN Adventures, and afterwards, when you get past that room, there's a text box that appears on screen where the nerd goes, "How the was I supposed to get that health item?"
Yeah.
There is a sequence in the game where you ride a flaming shark with lasers
on its frickin' head.
Yeah, pretty much. It
sounds funny. What's the type? Is it like
it's a 2D platformer?
It is 2D. Okay.
2D. It's a 2D pixel art platformer. It's 8-bit inspired, but like it's one of those like not 8-bit games.
Right. Sort of like which one was the
Shovel Knight? Or I don't know.
Oh, okay, that.
Kind of like that.
Okay.
It's very tough. but the advertising really is really try to emphasize, it's old school hard, which I don't even know what that means. It's that's just sort of like to say it's hard. I actually disagree that it's old school hard. I'd say it's actually more of a new school hard in that it's not hard like the NES games. It's more hard like something like I Want to Be the Guy, that sort of thing, where because you got because when you're playing the game on normal, you have 30 lives, you have checkpoints, you got a lot of leeway to work with.
So it's not...
that's not old school.
Yeah.
It's not Battletoads, is what you're saying.
No.
Nothing is Battletoads.
The game, every time you die, you get a little death screen in which the nerd says something derogatory about the game that he is in. Mm-hmm. Usually says something like, I would rather, disgusting thing, than be in this insult game anymore.
Yeah.
And it's very randomized.
A lot of fourth wall breaking.
Oh, a lot of fourth wall breaking. Well, the plot is that he's inside the game, so it all works in that regard. The last level is very tough. One thing I will say is that I don't think some of the negative reviews I actually kind of disagree with, because I really like this game, and I don't think it's as difficult as some people make it out to be, especially when there were certain areas that I've seen people highlight. I'm I kind of beat that really easily, and I'm not I wouldn't say I'm the best player, but it's just I don't know, just sort of weird. But the last level is called Laughing Joking Numbnuts, which is a reference to the old video game publisher LJN. They published a lot of the licensed NES games back in the day, and none of them were any good. Okay. So he's reviewed a lot of LJN games on his show. Everything's all rainbow colored because that's what their logo was. One kind of criticism I have of that level is that it really feels like the first half is harder than the second half. It's because the first half has a lot of more platforming, when the second half is more timing and dodging, which I feel I work better with.
Is this on Steam?
It's on Steam. It's on Wii U. It's on PS4, Xbox One.
It was on Wii U?
It's on Wii U, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
No, wrong Wii U.
Hey, trust me, he's a Nintendo. James Rolfe is a Nintendo fan, so I imagine he loves the fact that he can play his own game on a Nintendo console.
Yeah.
The last boss though is tough. His name is Fred F's. You can figure out what the F means.
Yeah.
Oh my god. He is so tough, and I basically had to create my own turbo button by just mashing the fire button super fast. Because dodging his attacks towards the second half of his life bar, it becomes borderline impossible.
Yeah.
But at the end, when I beat the game, I was really happy. I had a good time. So if you want a challenging platformer that's rude and crude, it's got Dookie in it, and it's got references to a whole bunch of naughty words and naughty things.
Which is right up your alley.
Yeah, get the game. It's very appropriate for the angry video game nerd, and it's good stuff. Good stuff.
That's pretty cool, because every once in a while you're not sure the type of game that if it's tied to something like, Penny Arcade or South Park or, you know what I mean? Where it's they're borrowing the name or the fandom of one thing, and then all of a sudden throw them in a different genre. It's wait, what? You're really?
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Really nice attention to detail they have is that if you don't do anything, if you don't move James, he just flips you off.
So, attempting to do a switch, but still staying with the classic retro gaming. SasukeDoctor from SMF actually, that's Sasuke Maniac Forums for those that are trying to figure out what SMF is. It has a question. I'm going to basically put it together because I know the second half more than the first. He had asked about a controversy or a recent controversy on old I guess historic historic gaming leaderboards.
Yeah.
Like old from Twin Galaxies, and he had referenced Todd Rogers.
Yeah.
I was not familiar with that anywhere as much as I was with Billy Mitchell. But as far as I'm concerned, they're technically the same thing, just from different game genres, and both of their entire history of high scores has been obliterated.
Yeah, so basically, I can give you the rundown of this one, if you want.
Okay.
So
please, thank
you.
The
Todd Rogers story is pretty fantastic. The Billy Mitchell one is not as interesting, but the Todd Rogers one is amazing, because like this guy had the world record for the most video game records at Twin Galaxies.
How many was it?
A lot. I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but he had a lot. Mostly Atari, Intellivision, ColecoVision games, that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And people have been kind of like, trying to look into some of these games, and they realize some of these records are, quite frankly, bullcrap. In that, like,
physically impossible.
Yeah, some of these scores are physically impossible. I remember there's this one game, it was like Barnstormer, where the score is based on how quickly you finish. And I think someone figured out, even in a ROM where you eliminate all the obstacles and just have the plane move in a straight line, it is impossible to get the time that Todd Rogers claims his record is.
Yeah.
And I remember there was like certain like Donkey Kong the ColecoVision, I think, was one of them, where it's like those sort of games where it's like
which I played.
the score that his supposedly had is not even like the right multiple that you can get.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's all these things he's been interrogated in person. I know on the Ben Heck show, and like he's denied it, even when people have like literal physical AI proof that it is impossible to get some of the scores that he has gotten. He denies it all. There was also a controversy because like one of the guys from Twin Galaxy who entered most of his scores got arrested for child pornography.
Great.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of those these days, which is
not
annoying.
Not good. And basically, it's like back in the day, their verification system was more like taking the referee's word and not like video proof. But now these days, that it's like easier than ever. It's like no excuse. Basically, it's a lot of bullcrap. People have been calling him out. There's been videos about it, and basically after the pressure, Twin Galaxies they suspended all of Todd Rogers' records. And basically, with the Billy Mitchell thing, they just they looked at his Donkey Kong records and they kind of realized that like, I think like they looked at the footage and realized that like it was a combination of him using MAME, which is not a genuine Donkey Kong arcade PCB, and also like I think one of the video submitted was like was edited. There was like a cut.
In fact, that's actually in the documentary.
Yeah. And I remember there was another video where it's like they showed them like supposedly changing out the board between Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr., but like someone took a close look at the video and realized, wait a minute, that's just the same board. There's something disingenuous. So yeah, it's this whole thing. Basically, people, it's one of those things where it's like back in the day when it was a lot harder to catch people cheating. People were cheating, and now they're getting caught.
Yeah, which is good because, it's very frustrating. I mean, games are supposed to be for fun, and then all of a sudden you start putting competition, and then some people are more unscrupulous than others. And it's frustrating when you see something that's so black and white, like, with Todd Rogers being, like, okay, here's the evidence. Oh, no, I didn't do that, whatever. And it's like, people have done this in public so you can see it. That's I think that's probably why I was more attached to the Billy Mitchell thing, because at least in the documentary you saw Steve. Is it Steve Wiebe?
Yes.
Steve Wiebe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, going every place that he could to get those numbers, in front of everybody in the machines that they had specifically requested, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, Billy Mitchell just mailed his in. Like, did you verify it? Oh, well, we're taking his word because he has because Twin Galaxy also has to take some of this blame.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it's like you start looking, and it's like, okay, my entire childhood was a flaw. Not a flaw, a lie. It's just like
lie.
Yeah, it's just.
I mean, if you're going to run a service, website, whatever, that catalogs records, and you fail to vet them properly, you get everything you deserve.
Yeah.
Because, it's the old adage of, when you're dealing with a child, anybody that has children knows this, do you need to teach a child to lie or teach a child to tell the truth?
Mm-hmm.
The answer is, of course, you need to teach a child to tell the
To
truth.
lie.
Because,
oh, wait, no, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, right. Because people will lie to make themselves look better, among other things. Yeah. So if you've got something like what Twin Galaxies did, and not to rip them unduly, but you didn't think somebody was going to fudge this? Yeah. You don't vet anything. I mean, you'd have to sit in front of him and watch him play on your machine, because that's the only way it's going to work. You've got to have a machine that's been... Okay, we have certified this is the actual arcade cabinet, the right board, we check the serial numbers, the ROM is correct, and then have people watching the entire time. It's the only way you can do it.
Yeah.
And if you do anything less than that, you get this.
Yeah, now these days, it's so much easier to notice that. It's difficult with the heart, with the past stuff. I'm happy that they did it. It's been a long time.
Well, at the same time, it wasn't that hard then. Okay, Billy, how bad do you want the record? Travel to where you need to travel to set the record in front of the right people that are vetting you.
Yeah, if but that was Twin Galaxy's fault because they should have done that the way.
This is kind of what I'm getting at. It's like, oh, well, he just mailed it in. You accepted that? Why would you accept that?
Yeah. Well, now, luckily and hopefully, any future stuff is going to be vetted more properly.
Well, if anybody even pays any attention to him anymore after this.
Oh, Billy? No.
I mean, even Twin Galaxies. I mean, if you're accepting mailed-in submissions, you're not... Boy, this is going to date me. You're not ordering army men out of the back of a comic book. You're supposed to be this is the official record keeping. Well, you're not doing anything that makes me think that anything you post has any value.
Yeah. Either way, switching subjects because we're just about on top of it. Only because I was thinking of competition. And by the way, as a quick thing, when is Evo?
August.
Okay.
No, July.
The next thing that's coming up. Okay, so provided we don't take another 3-month break, the next thing that's on the docket is.
August. Sorry.
It is August. Okay.
Early August. August 3rd.
Yeah. I've actually really gotten into that. I have certain games that I look at more often.
Apparently, Dragon Ball FighterZ has the most entrants as of right now.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, it kind of is, considering it's always been Street Fighter as number one.
Yeah, but it's a different generation now. And this is the generation that grew up with Dragon Ball. Plus, they made a good game, from what I understand. So,
yeah.
I just don't have the reflexes to play them anymore.
Oh, that ship has sailed long time. But the next thing that's coming up is E3. And I've watched... In the past, I used to watch all of them. Like, if there was something that I was really looking forward to. Now it's a little more difficult to... I don't know how to explain it. It's a little bit more difficult to be excited over certain things.
Well, we used to be excited about it because we had all 3 consoles.
Well, not just even that. It's just... It's gotten so bad where, like, for example, a good example would be, we're now almost 3 years from it, where they had announced Final Fantasy VII's remake.
Well, okay, believing anything Square tells you is just...
Well,
especially when Nomura is involved.
that's normally what's been going on with E3 of late, where it's sort of like, okay, thank you for the concept and the wonderful fully rendered FMV that has nothing to do with the actual gameplay. Because that's been a lot of knock. I mean, even going back, what was the game that was on the Xbox? Where they kept saying, oh no, that's in game, and then ended up figuring out that they did the whole thing basically through.
Well, name.
You're going to be a little more specific, yeah.
It was.
Or how about all those Kinect? How about all those Kinect games where they're like, yeah, don't worry, we're actually using Kinect on stage.
Although that was funny when they did, and they were using Kinect on stage, and it would disconnect.
Yeah, maybe.
It is interesting in terms of basically the rise and fall of the Xbox, where they finally had to get rid of the Kinect. They had to get rid of a lot of things, and
well, I mean,
it's
most
frustrating
of it was
because
the standard Microsoft mentality of, but you want this.
Mm-hmm.
No, Microsoft, ever since Bill retired, you're a different company.
Yeah.
You don't tell people what they want. They tell you what they want, and then you give it to them. That's business.
Yeah, either give it or you don't. That's it.
If you tell people what they want and they say, no, I don't want it, and you say, oh, yes, you do, they don't buy your products. Have you learned this lesson?
Well, in the previous cycle, Sony was the same thing. That's why we didn't get the PS3.
Right, the PS3 fell flat on its face right out of the gate. Now,
it's the biggest downfall between generations ever.
Oh yeah, I mean, PS2
how do you go from
insane numbers.
How do you go from the most popular gaming device of all time to a solid third place?
That is exactly how you do that.
Yep.
Where you start believing your own press and try to rest on your laurels a little bit and not listen to what your fans are telling you.
$599.
I remember hearing that, followed by Kaz Hirai saying, well, you'll just need to work a little harder.
Yeah, you just have to get, work extra hours.
To which I responded with, no, Kaz, I just need to not buy your system.
Yeah, and they didn't. In fact, the only way that we got the PS3 was because, to give you an example of how hardcore Sony people we were, we had our credit card that was a Sony card.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
That's how hardcore we were. So we had these points coming out the wazoo. And so finally at the end, we're like, okay, they're practically giving us a PS3.
We were getting rid of the card because the point program had been devalued. For a lot of years it was really good. It was not just PS2 stuff. It was anything Sony. I mean, we got a VCR out of it. We got a camcorder out of it, a camera. Just for stuff we spent money on anyway, so there was no difference. But the point program started to get devalued, and you could tell that Sony was trying to phase it out to some degree.
Yeah.
So when we made the decision to get away from it, we just said, well, we got all these points. There's nothing we really want. Okay, we got a PS3 and some noise-canceling headphones, and that just wiped out the card. I mean, there was like 100 points left. Well, who cares? You can't get anything for 100 points.
Yeah.
And that was it. Otherwise, I would have never bought one. Now, the PS3 was a good system. But Sony just
completely different
fell flat on their face with the PS3, and it took them several years to figure it out. And then the part that just cracked me up is that Microsoft did exactly the same thing the next time around. I'm like, did you not pay attention?
Yeah, I was just sitting there watching E3 where all these announcements coming out, and I'm like, so you just decided to go hold my beer?
Yes. Yes.
Hold my beer. Let me tell you exactly how to do this.
You think you blew that? No. Let us show you how it's done.
And in terms of like what I call quote unquote colossal failure, Sony's was a lot more stark because not only was it a worldwide thing, they sold a lot in Japan and they didn't for this one, which I thought was interesting. Microsoft's is a completely different demographic because there's almost no footprint of Microsoft in Japan to begin with. So in terms of where they were getting hit, that's why they can never really catch up. It wasn't... who they were trying to woo was a completely different audience. Sony screwing up not only was a worldwide thing, when you lose Japan, it's like, oh wow. Which is now looking at what Nintendo's going through. where they put all their eggs in the basket for Switch, and it worked. And I'm happy for them, and I've said that before many times. Still not going to get the system yet. There's nothing there that... there are too many problems with it that I don't like. It's working for them, and I'm happy for them because they finally figured out, okay, we need to just rework this ship. So, by the way, did you get Labo?
No, I didn't get Labo.
No. Okay, good.
I'll say
Switch
this.
is a good system. It just doesn't fit what we do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say this. Labo's not for me, but I've seen people make cool stuff with Labo. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. When you see someone make a working vending machine, it's like, okay, yeah, you know what? You can do some cool stuff.
Yeah.
Speaking of Nintendo, you know what I'm looking forward to at E3?
But
seeing Super Smash Brothers.
Everybody keeps talking about that, where Nintendo had raised their projections on what they think they're going to be selling, and they raised it to sell more than they did the initial year. And so the only way logically to figure out, okay, well, it's not like if they're going to sell another Zelda or another Mario, because that already came out. There's only 2 properties that can command those kind of numbers to basically to sell more systems, which mean there'll be more people that are still waiting in the wings. That is Smash and Pokemon.
Yes, all right.
And both are announced.
Yep.
Or not the Smash. They did some reference to it, but Pokemon, they outright said what's coming.
Yeah. Well, they basically a little while ago at Nintendo Direct, they surprised everyone by finally announcing Super Smash Brothers. It is not a remake of 4. It's not a port of 4 because on the website they specifically call it a Nintendo Switch Super Smash Brothers, not Super Smash Brothers for Switch. This is 5.
Okay.
This is Smash 5. It might be based on Smash 4, but for all intents and purposes, this is Smash 5. I like the way they announced it because they didn't say they were announcing Smash. They didn't say this was a new game. They just said, "Hey, look at this thing." They started with the Inklings from Splatoon doing some stuff, and then all of a sudden everything gets dark, and there's fire in the sky, and the girl Inkling looks around, and in the pupil of her eye you see the Smash logo.
Okay, that's what it was. I saw that in social media. It exploded.
And well, yeah, because they did it without telling anyone. And the funny thing is that like you look at how the first trailer for Smash 4 started. It's like, you know, it's the villager from Animal Crossing getting a letter that's like, "Oh, we cordially invite you to the next Super Smash Brothers." And now for Smash 5, the first trailer is, "You have been chosen, Inkling One. Prepare to die." You see Mario and Link with like flames in the background, them just standing menacingly.
Yeah.
And so now everyone's wondering, like, who's in Smash? They're doing a Smash Invitational on E3, featuring 8 of the best Smash Bros. Players in the world. They're going to show us gameplay. We're going to see who the roster is. We don't know who's on the roster. We know it's Inkling, Link, Mario, and whoever those other shadows were that you can make out.
Yeah.
Because right now, that's all we know. Who's the new characters going to be? I don't know. They still have quite a few first-party titles that they don't that are actually not represented in Smash at all. There's no Golden Sun representation. There's no Advance Wars. There's no Star Tropics. They could do ARMS, which recently came out, and plus third-party. What are there going to be any new third-party representation? There's been talk about, maybe Simon Belmont from Castlevania, Like, I'm sure if you give Konami money, they'll just let them use the property.
Heck, look what happened with Cloud.
Yeah. Will Cloud be back?
Was not even... Yeah, it was all of a sudden... Wait, what? He's a Nintendo system?
Yeah, no one expected that.
That was cool.
Thanks to Kingdom Hearts for creating that loophole.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way he's been on a Nintendo console before. Theatrum. He appears in Theatrum for the 3DS.
Right.
But there's this game supposedly coming out this year, and we know nothing. So they got to show a lot of stuff at E3. So I think that's going to be the feature title.
Yeah. I think it's interesting how Nintendo handles that type of information because, like I was saying at the start, E3 is a little bit different for me. I will still watch it. I like it a lot. I'm very picky about what I will sit down and watch. Like, I will sit down and watch the Sony one. Hopefully it's not a whole bunch of chairs like they did with the Experience.
Oh, God.
It was
God, that sucked.
Yeah. So hopefully they learn from feedback that's no bueno. So we'll see. But Nintendo, when they announce things, it is either it is out right now and you can download it, play it, or whatever, or it's within the current year. As opposed to Sony and Microsoft and all of the third party, where all of a sudden it's like, here's our idea. We haven't hired anybody yet, no storyboarders, but this is going to be great. And then, like 10 years later, you're still trying to figure out if it's even worth it. You know?
Yeah, I remember I talked about this outside of the podcast before, but like I think after Breath of the Wild, and what happened with that, I think like they're trying to be more closer to the actual release when they announce things.
Yes.
Like, think about it for a second. Mario Odyssey, one of the biggest games last year for Nintendo, was officially announced the same year it came out, which is crazy. And, like, you look at, like, most of their titles, usually they come out, like, a year ahead of time. At most, they're announced a year ahead of time. Like, Metroid Prime 4 is probably one of the few exceptions from last year that hasn't been out yet. But the reason they announced that, and without any gameplay footage, is simply because... very strategically, it's because they were going to announce a remake for Metroid 2, and it was very much a, don't worry guys, we're making another entry in the franchise.
But something was actually coming out, though, so
even though
it was a second-hand... it was...
They're being very meticulous.
They did that with Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same strategy.
It's sort of like, we got these two things that are integrated with Pokemon Go, but don't worry... For the ones that you want an actual mainline game, just wait another year. It's coming in 2019.
Yeah. They're being very selective and meticulous in terms of when they announce what.
Yeah. Although I like how they announce that. It's sort of like, so you won't have your hardcore base, basically throwing, oh my god, that's not the game we wanted. It's sort of like, okay, no, we know this is the one that's coming out now. And the one that you're waiting for, we are working on. But at least they're learning, because in the in the past, Nintendo just did not do that.
Yeah,
so just in the last couple of years, a lot of things have changed.
That whole mess with the Federation Force was, that was messy, to say the least. That was very messy. But yeah, looking forward.
Either way, I'm not sure what I'm expecting for E3. I'm already resigned with the one game that I wanted, that I'm not going to end up playing it if they still kept what was shown in E3, which is the remake for Final Fantasy VII. It was pretty, except for when they started doing the gameplay. They fundamentally changed the gameplay.
Yeah, it was pretty much Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, I don't want Kingdom Hearts. You can have Kingdom Hearts, and supposedly it's coming out this year.
I don't believe it still. I still don't believe that.
Either way, I don't like that type of gameplay. I just don't. So you take something as beloved as 7, which, at least from my point of view, that was my first Final Fantasy game. Even as an adult, that was my very first Final Fantasy game. So I have a lot of special feelings for it. I love it. Don, of course, will always still love 6, and it's interesting because because in Japan there was a lot of feedback on that game where the Japanese press would automatically say, this is Kingdom Hearts. Oh, no, it's not good. This is Kingdom Hearts. You changed it. Oh, no, it's just action basis, so it's not the original game. Oh, well, remaking it, for the newer people, said this is not the same game. And the same people turned around and said, do not touch Final Fantasy VI. Yeah. And I thought that was a damning statement.
Yeah, if you... Nomura, if you're still employed at Square by the time this is all said and done.
Oh, he's going to be employed. He's just...
If you do that to Final Fantasy VI...
You will be disowned.
Yeah, I mean, the way things look right now with the 7 remake. The first thing is changing the combat system to button mash, which is basically what it's become from what we can see in the video. And then trying to split a game that fit on 4 CDs into, what are they saying, 5 or 6 episodic releases at the price of a full game? Are you out of your mind?
At first they said it was 3.
I thought it was only 3, yeah.
Whatever.
No,
they'll find a way to do microtransactions in that as well. Give, Squall or Cloud his Moogle costume from whatever. It just stop trying to reinvent the wheel, Squaresoft. All you have to do is remake the graphics of the game, slightly update the battle system, just like menu-wise, things, smooth some things out that didn't translate well from the PS1 or PS2. And that's it. And it'll be shut up and take my money. But when you start messing with nostalgia like this, it is going to blow up in your face. Learn the lesson.
Yeah. What's going on with 7 is they threw out the old engine and they put a basically wanted ads, if that is a thing, for storyboardists and game engineers and whatever. It's like they're starting all over again. So the big question now is, okay, if they're starting all over again, they still have Nomura. It doesn't matter because Nomura is going to try to turn it into Kingdom Hearts anyway. And no one wants a Kingdom Hearts. It was like, but 15 was it 15 from the beginning was a button mash. That when it was still Final Fantasy versus 13, it's still. It was always going to be that style of game.
15's been 3 different games before it came out.
No, but the point being, that was his own mechanic. It was always built to be that way. I mean, yes, it changed engines. It was, 10, 15 years in production or whatever.
God only knows.
It wasn't as if they were retrofitting a classic JRPG style and everything. In fact, the material system was brand new, but it was still the classic turn base. It was active and whatever, but it was.
But they gave you the option. You could wait or you could do ATB.
And you individually controlled your characters, as opposed to sort of like 13, where you control one character and then the other 2 are in a gambit system. In fact, 12 is basically what started that.
Well, 12 was the one that got it right. Because you can tailor the characters. If you're going to do that type of system, you can tailor their gambits so finely that you can basically make them do what you want them to do.
Yeah.
If you dive deep enough in.
It was still set up that way, though. It's supposed to where they saw how 15 was taken because everybody still wants Kingdom Hearts.
Well, the thing is, and this is just from stuff I've read from Nomura, is that he's just trying to speed up and modernize the battle system. Which, from everything that I've seen from him, means turn it into just push the X button until it's dead. Those of us that grew up with the classic RPGs like to actually think a little bit. That's why we like the games.
Yeah.
So if you turn these into action games, you're going to lose most of the old school fans, the people with full-time jobs and money, to try and sell it to the younger generation, which I guess is fine. But you've, at the same time, just disenfranchised, for lack of a better word, all of the people that made the game as popular as it is.
Yeah.
So you can do what you want. It's your company, it's your game, but don't be surprised when you hear a lot of complaining.
Well, and for their perspective, when you've pissed off Japan, you screwed up.
Yeah, the fact that they were so vehement about that, because that is just not normal. Usually it's we don't like it, and that's where the conversation ends. That was always the big complaint with Yoshida for Final Fantasy XIV. He says the Japanese say they don't like it, but they don't tell you why. Whereas the West will actually explain why they don't like it and where you went wrong, and maybe they don't want that much detail, but at least they know.
Yeah. So I'm hoping if it does end up showing up in E3.
It won't.
No.
I don't know, because they haven't said anything definitively.
Well, it might be a Square Enix's thing, but I have a feeling they're going to concentrate more on Kingdom Hearts 3, since that is supposedly the one coming out this year. Yeah. Square Enix is probably going to show off their Avengers game that they're making. They're going to show off Kingdom Hearts and other stuff. I don't know. Final Fantasy VII is up in the air. Can I be completely frank for a second? Yeah. I really don't care.
Oh, I know that.
I don't care about Final Fantasy VII. All this remake stuff has done is made me remind me why I irrationally hate the game. Even though I bought it.
You hate the game in the beginning?
The freaking in school, all my classmates were like, Final Fantasy VII is the greatest game of all time. It beats everything on the Nintendo 64. I didn't even subscribe to that console war crap back in the day. But like, when everyone's attacking me, telling me that Final Fantasy VII is better than every game that I own, just because a certain character may or may not be deceased by the end of it. Like,
that's just
screw you and your game.
That's
it's okay, because 6 is still the better one anyway.
Well, look, and talking about Nintendo specifically, I played Final Fantasy VII ad nauseum.
Yep.
I have put more hours into GoldenEye than I did Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, I need to bring something up because I just remembered. Nintendo has been doing, obviously, the retro gaming systems.
Yes.
And they are rumored to do an N64 Classic.
Okay.
There's no way in heck they'll be able to do GoldenEye the way I remember.
Well, legally they can't because...
I know, and it's so frustrating!
Because that is a Rare game, and Rare is owned by Microsoft. So, I mean, they could work it out, but they would also need to get the license for GoldenEye from...
Well, they got... What they did was they have re-released GoldenEye, but they replaced the characters with
okay, so that's a weird thing because like that was an Activision game, and that was like a co thing with Nintendo. It's weird. The whole license with the GoldenEye game is very weird. Like Microsoft wanted to do a remake for the Xbox 360, similar to what they did with the Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie, because they're Rare games, but like they weren't allowed. It's weird. It's messy.
But they got Crash.
But Crash is Activision.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that then who owns Crash Team Racing? Because that's its own
Activision.
license. Hell.
Activision.
Oh.
Activision. Yeah, Crash bought... Activision bought all the rights for Crash Bandicoot and Spyro from Universal.
Yeah, but I thought Crash Team Racing was done by a completely different group.
It doesn't matter who the group is, it matters who owns the rights.
No, but that's what I mean. They're like, in other words, that it's not part of the original license, because it was not part of the original 3 Crash games.
I don't know.
To be completely honest here, I'm not super familiar with the entirety of the Crash, games.
That's fine. Crash Team Racing, I think, is the better. I love that game.
I'm familiar with 1, 2, and 3, and that is it.
Yeah, Crash Team Racing was basically their version of Mario Kart, but it had its own twist, and I liked it because it wasn't like, hey, this is Mario Kart, on the PlayStation. You know what I mean? Good. It's completely different. Yeah. So just to finish off, for classic, the classic N64, or basically the mini N64, what games do you want?
Okay, well, I just want to state I don't own any of the mini consoles, so I probably wouldn't get this one either. But if you were to make a mini N64, obviously you got to include Mario 64.
Yeah, obviously.
You got to include Ocarina of Time.
Do you do that and Majora's?
I would. Okay. I would personally. Let's see. I'm assuming you're gonna have like maybe 20 games. So you got those 3. Probably Mario Kart.
You think they're gonna be 20?
Maybe.
I think it'll be a whole lot less because there's just what I'm thinking.
Well,
probably
games. Wave Race will be there.
You gotta do
Superman.
No, there's no chance in hell. God. You got Mario Kart. You're definitely gonna do Mario Kart.
I want Conkers.
That's another Rare game.
That's Microsoft. They gotta.
I
You gotta get an
text sensitive.
You have to buy an Xbox One if you want that, because that's on the that's on the Rare Replay collection.
No.
Or I can just plug my N64 in and play it.
Yeah, I have my N64. I still have my old TV,
of course.
So I'm not having any issues
with that.
You
can do that too. What are the Paper Mario? Probably Paper Mario. That's good RPG. I'm trying to think. Would they put any of the Pokemon games on it? Because you would.
Snap. I want Snap. I love Pokemon Snap.
Good.
I am so surprised that no one's even talking about it.
A lot of people ask for Snap.
I would be tempted to get it. I would be tempted to get a Switch for Snap.
They
have to fix a lot of problems, though.
Yeah.
And I'm so frustrated with their lack of multiplayer options without having to jump through hoops so you can actually hear people. The save system that now you have to pay for.
Look. All I'll say is that, like, I've been saying for months, like, everyone's been saying, oh, when's Nintendo going to announce, like, the details of their online servers? And I'm just like, dude, you don't want them to announce it. You want them to keep pushing it back.
Yes.
I like being able to play Splatoon for free.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
Did
now,
you lose any saves?
Well, just don't be irresponsible with your Switch, I guess. I don't know.
Did you lose any saves during the 1 year mark?
No, I have not.
Okay.
I'm good. But I don't know, just...
Well, you know that bug.
Didn't happen to me, so we're all good. Yeah, I don't know. N64, it's going to be weird, because, like, I think a lot of the games you would put on an N64 Mini, they legally can't, because they're rare games.
Right.
So, and, let's be honest, third party is a bit limited on N64, because that's where a lot of companies jump shipped to Sony.
Yeah.
So...
That was when PS2 was like, oh.
Yeah, but like they got options. They could fill an N64 Mini with games. They'd probably be mostly first party games, but they can do it.
Yeah, and considering that there were a lot of people that weren't even alive for that are that they never had, or it was interesting. I'm always reading and watching other information on that. And there was one person that was like, yeah, they had an N64 and they had one game because that's all they can afford. Like the parents would buy it for them and they had one game and that's it. And they just played that over and over and over again. So like the idea like now where you would have a system and you get multiple games, or if you're an adult, you can just buy whatever the heck you want. But for people that were younger, like especially the millennial generation, it really depended on how you grew up. If you had parents that bought every single game for you or anything like that. So I think this will sell better because that's closer to their childhood than like an NES or even SNES.
And those first two sold really well.
The one that I am hoping, only because I thought there were so many games that many people did not play, is the GameCube. I think they would have to stop there, because in which case it's no longer a classic. But the GameCube had some ridiculous games that I wish more people can play.
Yeah,
I'm curious if they're ever going to put Mario Party in that.
Oh!
Because the Mario Party system, what I would know, started with the N64.
Well,
and the
literally.
original one was awesome. My favorite is still 6.
2.
Mario Party 1 started there.
I like 2 and 4 the best, but I didn't play 6 as much, so...
Okay. 6 I think had the best balance of mini games and the boards. I played all the boards.
Okay.
So there were mechanics and other stuff from other ones, but that would be the only ones that I played because I hated all the other ones. Or like, oh, can I have an option to, if I can opt one to take out one from the rotation, would be great. But yeah. Yeah, now that I have my old TV here, I might actually hook it up to play my GameCube again. So, either way. So, anyway, we can just keep talking forever. So, thank you guys for finally bringing this back up, and thank you, William, so much for being so patient with us moving, and then the text back and forth going, that's not gonna work because I don't have a microphone. Okay, that's not gonna work because I have work in the house. That's not work. Can we do this again?
Woo!
Because I usually do this, and I do Animation Hangout, which we'll be recording shortly, and there's things that I haven't been able to watch because of that, so that pushed all of it back. So either way, William, where can they reach you?
Hey, you know what I didn't have the last time we recorded?
What?
An Instagram account.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
So go for it.
I do Instagram now. It's the same handle as my Twitter. So you can follow me on both those websites at 2D2Will. And, follow me on YouTube, 222 Productions. The A&W season has started, and I will be talking about it as
neck deep. You got 2 series going simultaneously now.
We will walk the dinosaur and finish Ninja vs. Ninja. Good times will be had by all. And do that. Thank you for listening.
Yep. Don?
You can find me on Twitter at Domnall, DOMNHAL. And thanks for hanging out.
No problem, and I can be reached at Twitter and YouTube at Arsenette, ARSENETTE, and my website Rambling Regan, and my Instagram is also Rambling Regan. So, boy, that's one way to finish that off. So either way, until next time, whenever that is, enjoy.
Woo! Smash 5!
Take care, guys.